Collage. Last video I went really in depth in a really extended length video on how to do a few painting techniques. Hopefully you've taken this time to get your fruits together, to get your vegetables together, and all of your corn, your background. Hopefully you've taken the time to play with some new colors and get all of the fruits and vegetables and other items that you want to fill your collage with. Okay, so in this video I want to show you how I'm going to make my kinara. I'm just doing some folds and some cuts, and I thought, you know what, I should show the people. So stay tuned and I will be right back. Alright, so we are back. So I pulled up the picture of the inspiration that I'm working from, and I just want to expand it a little bit so that we can get a good look at this kinara. So this kinara is pretty simple and easy to make. It's just a series of essentially folds and lines, and these lines, there's a little bit of shadow here which indicates a ridge, and there's a little bit of highlight here. Now we're going to be making use of some darker tones to pull that shadow out and some lighter tones to pull out the highlights, but let's just show you how I'm going to go through just the folding process to get the basic shape. All right. I'm going to switch to my hands right here. All right, you have my hands. Okay, so I'm going to move this background. I just wanted to take a nice look at it. I enjoy that background. It's still looking good for us. Here you have it. But this is the wooden paper that I'm using, and it's the paper that I'm using to make my kinara, and so it does have the wood texture, and so I enjoy that. It's also light, similar to the kinara. So I essentially just did a series of folds, and these folds are indicating each level of the kinara. These folds are indicating each level of the kinara. So I'm just going to fold my paper here, then I'm going to fold it here. So let's start with this really thin fold at the bottom. I'm starting from the middle so that I can keep my paper as straight as possible, and I'm lining up the edges. That's a really good indicator that you're going to get a straight fold. And when I get that nice straight fold, before I harden those edges, I'm just going to see if it's as straight as I can possibly get it. That feels good. And I'm going to take the edge of my pencil sharpener. Sometimes the words come a little slow. Take the edge of my pencil sharpener. I'm just going to harden the edge. Just going to make it a stiff, hard edge. Nice and crisp and clear. And so this bottom edge here is going to line up with this edge right here. This area here lines up with this level of fold here. This area here lines up with the width of this fold here. And then this fold here lines up with, again, the width of this fold here. I have two more levels left. I have this level and a slight level here. So that lines up with this fold here and this. So all I've done essentially is folded this paper at different points. Okay? Now I'm just going to go from the middle. I'm going to take this paper. I'm going to just fold it down the middle. I'm not doing a crisp fold. Not at all. So I've taken that paper and I've done the folds. And now I'm going to draw what I think I will see. Here. Here. And I'm going to put this in marker for you. Here. I think I'll play with the shape of my canara, just have a little fun. I'm making my canara a little bit more playful in its shape. Bringing it out here. Going up, bring it out a little bit more. Go up here and go in here. Now let me outline what I've drawn with my marker. Let me just make sure, like letting it face me, that it's the angles that I want. Okay, so I've drawn in the lines, and because it's in half, what I do on one side is going to be reflected in the other. Okay? And I'm just going to cut. Now remember, I didn't crease this edge that hard. I'm actually feeling like I want to put a little design there, but we shall see. That's getting ahead of ourselves. Let's just cut where we have it. This is the first time we're using our scissors the whole time, but we're going to get into more of that. I just really wanted to show you how I make the canara. And the corn. And there we have the shape of my kinara. Okay? Now, I'm going to check to make sure that this kinara isn't larger than I want it to be. If it's larger than I want it to be, it's going to be too big for the background. So let's see how that goes. If you remember at the beginning, you did take a picture of your layout. Can't have the canara be too big, because if we have it too big, then we can't fit the candles, and we definitely don't want to cut the candles off. So I'm going to ask myself, do I like the size of this canara, or is it too big? It's pretty prominent, but I like the prominence that is showing right here. I don't have a problem with it at all. Wonder how tall my candles can be. I actually like the size of this kinara. I do think I'm going to take some of the canara size down in this area right here. So the way that I'm going to do that is I've made a decision to make my kinara two-tone. So I'm going to cut out this middle section because I feel like that's the section that's taking up the most space. Right here. Oh, why did she cut her kinara in half? Because I'm showing you the thinking process through this. The thinking process through this. All right. Now, to be really honest with you, this is the size of the kinara that I want. This is the size of the kinara that I really want because it'll allow me to show the mat. The candles will be a nice size. So this is really what I want to work with. But what am I going to do about this band right here? Well, that's an opportunity that we'll cross later. So this is what I wanted to show you right now. Okay, I do like the size of that kinara. I think that the size of that kinara will allow me to play with my corn and will give me the space for my candles. So I'm going to pause the video here until I want to show you my next step. All right. So you saw how I just cut down the kinara because I wanted to reduce the size of the kinara. So I've pretty much taken a nice chunk out of it, which left me with this extra here. So I'm going to create a bowl to hold my fruit, right? Only thing I don't particularly like at this time is I don't like that the woods are the same color. So I'm going to change my bowl in tone just a little bit so that it looks like I've used different types of wood. Still haven't come up with a way to bring these together, but it's not that I can't be creative and come up with a way. It's just I really want to come up with a few different ways and choose the one I like the most. So remember, this middle piece we don't waste. It now has become the bowl. And I'll show you how I tone the color in just a second. All right, so the collage process is about building and moving things and seeing where we like them, laying colors against each other. These are things you could do in your sketch beforehand, or these are things that you can do while in the process. The way that I work my collage is I have an idea in my head, I have a color scheme in my head, but I definitely allow a lot of space for change. So I do have burlap, and I'm just pulling some of the edges of the burlap fabric just so that I can get what may feel like some tassels. So I'm there fraying the edges. Just a little bit, not too much. And this is the mat that goes underneath everything. Now let me show you something. It's decision making time. So here's my mat. And then here's my kinara. Now I don't know about you, but I don't feel good about the level of contrast there. I feel like the kinara and I feel like the bowl and the mat are too close in color. So now I have some decisions to make about what color I'm going to tint the bowls. I know I want to keep my kinara this color, but what color do I want to tint the bowl, or what color do I want to paint my kinara? These are a lot of decisions to be made at this time because this has created a pretty large space of the same color. Now the mat's not going all the way to the top. The mat will cut off at a certain point, but it's just too much color there that's too similar for me. I'm gonna need some contrast. So I think I'm going to play with my bowl and change my bowl to a black color. All right, so let's watch the process of how I do that. So I've gone ahead and cut down the mat. I haven't painted the bowl yet, but I've cut down the mat and just wanted you to see what's going to be in front of the other. So you should be able to tell that this bowl is in the front. That means my fruit is going to spill over and cover up some of that kinara. It's also going to cover up a large portion of the mkeka or the mat. And then don't forget we have some corn that's going to cover up another portion of the kinara. Okay, so we have to be careful about how high we're making our candles. Do we want to make them extra long, or do we want to make them a little thicker and shorter? But there are some questions we need to ask ourselves as we continue on this process, and that is the real life, real time decisions that collage artists make. So I am going to go ahead and paint my bowl a black color, and I'm going to do that by using some watery paint. And I think I'll go ahead and show you live just the process of how I'm going to tint this, and to help you to see it better, I think I'll put it on something darker. Give it some contrast. There we go. So I'm just going to take some black paint, and I'm using just a little bit because I'm tinting it, which means I'll be using a lot of water. A lot of watery paint. So just have here, you can tell it's very watery, but it is darker, and that should tint this bowl just fine. Yep. So it's almost like we're staining real wood, which means you want to keep your paintbrush moving, just like if you were staining real wood. I want to go a little darker with that, so I am going to pick up a little bit more paint in the water. And I actually like the fact that I stained it darker because it'll be a nice contrast to the fruits that are going to be in this bowl as well. So now we have some contrast there from the mat. Okay? And we're going to get even more contrast as we go along because we're going to use different colors in the fruits and go from there. One thing I will do is, when I was making my corn yesterday with you, I said, oh, I don't think I want to do corn on a white background, so I'm going to go ahead and just do a light wash on this paper so that when I do my corn above it, it'll be popping off of a color other than white. And I don't have to use this whole paper for the corn because of perspective. When we see, we see the picture, we know that our corn really doesn't have to be that big. So there's no need to use this whole sheet of paper when we can use it for something else as well. How can this turn into corn? You'll see. But I will tell you that I'm going to do a wash. I'm not doing a lot of thick or heavy paint. So I'm going to let that dry. And I am going to do Q-tip corn just like I showed you yesterday. Yes, I remember I kept calling it a toothpick. You should have helped me out. All right, so I'm going to put this to the side and let it dry. And I'm going to start working on some of my fruit. I'll be right back. So I'm taking this time to draw out my cup. All right, and before we're done, we'll make sure to speak their proper names as established by the holiday. I was going to draw the bottom here like that, but it's just a waste of drawing, because if you look at the picture, the bottom of the cup doesn't even show. I'm sure that my fruit is going to cover up the bottom of the cup. But just in case it doesn't, let me go ahead and do that. So I've done it just to show you with the marker. And because I'm painting my cup black, I'll just go ahead and give you, a little bit more of the design of the cup. But because I'm painting it black, and then I'm going to play with something kind of fun right here. So hold on, I'll be back having cut it out and having painted. So now that I've painted my cup, I'm going to move on to the corn. I just have a palette of beige, orange, red, dark brown, and I'm going to bring in some yellow. Okay? And I brought in all those colors because if you look at the corn, those are the colors you're going to see. I think I'll add a dab of white. Those are the colors that you're going to see in that corn area. Okay? So we're using a sponge, and I'm just going to dab in the colors. Dab in the colors. Just going to pick a few colors up at a time. And I'm just gonna dab, 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 dab. And when I want to change a color, I just go back in and dab with a different color. Well, that doesn't look like corn at all, does it? Just dabbing in some beige. Some of the corn was more yellowy, orange, and beige. Some of it was more red and brown. And so we're just suggesting the colors, okay? We're gonna just model them up, and we're just suggesting the corn kernels. I may come in afterwards and use the Q-tip and get some more defined kernels. I think that getting some more defined kernels will help those that really love the literal. But we are just playing around, as you can see, just playing with the colors, just suggesting the colors. I think I'll keep my bright one down here towards the bottom and mix it in with some dark. And I'm just doing some suggestions of corn, some suggestions, a little texture, and I think I'll go, some corn has even some purple in it, so I think I've used some purple on my palette, and play with that towards the top. We have space. Now, of course, I don't want it too purple, so I'm going to mix it in with some brown and some red, and that'll bring me into the burgundy family. Turning my sponge different directions. Give myself some more red. And if you're working with your family and you're working in a group, I hope that you're finding that this $8.99 paint has stretched for you. I like what's happening there. Okay, and that's why we painted the background gray as opposed to white. Look at the big difference. And so we'll just change the direction of the sponge. I'll pick up some yellow and some beige, bring that in, change the direction. I'm satisfied. Let's use some more purple and red and dark brown to get that burgundy color I'm really looking for. And so I feel like right there I have 3 separate suggestions of corn color, and I think that they will contrast very well with our corn husk that we made. And I'm going to pull this up so you can see it better. Give that corn a little bit more orange, and give this one at the top a little bit more red. And let me show you. So here we have texture, and this is what we are going to make our corn from, right there. So we're going to put this to the side and let it dry. See? Well, we're going to put that to the side and let it dry. In the time that we were paused, I started to rip my corn husk paper. I like leaving a white tear. I like that because it definitely lets it be known that we are working with collage, just a combination of papers. I like the touch it adds. It's playful. So I'm ripping it in such a way where I still keep the white showing. And these are my husks while we wait for the corn to dry. In that time, I've also did the black cup like I said I would, and the bowl where all my different fruit are going to be. Have I gotten to the fruit yet? No, I haven't. That's gonna require a much larger span of time. So things are shaping up bit by bit, and don't forget all the different colors that we played with for the corn are drying. Okay, so these go together. We're going to add a little bit of contrast, and you'll see how I do that with dark brown and maybe even a little black. All right, I'll be right back. So I've gone ahead and drawn out my fruit right here, and I drew out as many of the pieces individually as I felt was necessary. And so now that you've seen them drawn out, the next time you see them, they'll be in full color, fitting right inside of the bowl. I'm as happy as I want to be because I have found a reason to use these. Well, that's kind of big. How about this size? That's a nice size grape. So I'm going to make my grapes using the colors on my now very messy palette. I'm going to make these grapes. So let's see how this works. Knowing that I don't use flat colors, just dipping it, mixing different tones. I'm gonna go in. Ooh, I like that. Make sure I get color all over my grape, my circle. Oh, I'm having fun. I like the variation of color in the grapes. It just continues the theme that we've been using the entire time, which is no flat colors. Just overlapping, going a little darker, giving some fun to the eye. These grapes look tasty to me. I'm gonna make some of them perfectly filled in, some of them not, just to give it some fun, some variation. They're looking marbly, like marble. I think that's enough grapes. All right. We're going to let that dry. And I'm going to go ahead and make a stem and some leaves. Let's just let that dry. Now that our corn's been drying, just so you can see the variations of colors, our time is soon coming to an end, but I have a lemon, I have a pineapple, I have an apple. I think I want to see some orange, so I'll bring in an orange. That can't be too hard. I am pouring straight from the bottle onto the paper, and that's a bright orange. I didn't feel like using pumpkins. Everybody has pumpkins. How about I do something different? I'm sure out of this large area of orange, I can cut out an orange and put in some yellow directly on my paintbrush. Get that hair out of there. Nobody wants to see hair on their food, so forget what I said before. Alright. So I'm going to be able to cut an orange out of that. While I'm at it, I'll paint my apple, my lemon. Just pouring paint right onto my brush at this point. I want my lemon to have just a tinge of green, just a little tinge. And when I mean a little, I mean a little. Just that little bit. And let me dab some off. Alright, let me show you what that's looking like. Okay, so we have orange, lemon, grape so far. Give me a second and I'll come back having painted the pineapple and the apple. Hello. So I'm back, and the painting of the fruit is where you get to show a lot of your personality, a lot of the color play, you know, with my grapes, with the different colors. And then I have my pineapple and my apple. None of the techniques that I've used would indicate, oh, I'm a painter. Anyone can do these techniques. Okay, they are suggestive. They are not realistic. And even the corn, I used the Q-tip, and I decided to play around bringing the blue color into my fruits and vegetables. I think I told you from the beginning, blue was one of my favorite colors. So I'm just bringing in, and you see how I use the Q-tip to suggest corn kernels? We're suggesting, we're playing around. We are not forcing ourselves to do anything realistic. I'm even painting, you know, with the Q-tip. Okay, just adding in some blue on the grapes. Just to balance the ideas out. And none of this requires that you have mad painting skills. None of it. You saw that we dabbed this with a sponge, and then I just used Q-tips for dots. I used that little circular tool, and I just stamped on my grapes. And the rest of that is with a Q-tip, not even a paintbrush. Just some simple shapes, you know, and we are cooking with gas. So the next time you see me, which I thought we'd be done in 3 videos, but when you're showing real time, you want to not rush it. I wanted to show you all exactly what I'm doing. So we do have a bonus, a bonus 4th video. All right, just got to get my orange in there and I'll be good to go. All right, so I'll lift this closer to you. Next time we see each other, I want you to have your candles cut out, your bowl cut out, your fruit painted. You saw how I painted that with no real concern or no real skill, okay? We are putting these pieces together in a way that's going to be fun. All right. I haven't even cut all the pieces out, and you can see that bowl. It's looking like a real fruit bowl. And the mat. Now we have contrast. Now we have contrast with the bowl and the mat. Okay, you see where we're going with it? So I will have my candles cut out, and every piece that I'm going to lay onto this total collage, okay? And I'm going to have all my pieces cut out. Everything I'm going to lay onto my collage will be ready to use our Mod Podge and my glue stick, and we will be just looking at, okay, I like this here. Let me move this up. Let me move this down. All right. Let me fill a few things in. Black is a really strong color. If I didn't feel good about the black color, I could make that a dark brown, but I do feel comfortable with the black color because I know and I remember that the mask that we'll be doing will balance out that black. I'm also going to play with a little bit of shadow. On the mat, I literally just ran my paintbrush across just to break up the colors. Alright, so everything that you have, just keep thinking, I don't want it flat. I don't want it flat. How much creativity can I put into each piece? Not too much, but definitely make everything that you have changed. I'm going to bring up the red, black, and green, and I'm going to bring up the blue just so you can see our color story. All right, so don't forget, it's going to get brighter. There's a lot of action moving around. All right. And so we're going to make this exciting. All right. I'm going to make it exciting. Let me cut this orange real quick. It's a big old orange. Maybe I can make it smaller. And we'll just slide that on in, willy-nilly. But we are telling a story, and the story is coming to life. So make your story come to life, and then we'll get down to the decoupaging, or what I like to call the melting of the collage. I am artist Diyah Najah. This arts workshop is being presented to you by the Read and Trotty Library, which is a library of the DeKalb Public library system. And I am so glad you spent time with me, and I will see you in our last and final video. Good night. Well, it's nighttime where I am. Where are you? Ugh. I'm not acting, I'm being my real self. And it is 11 at night. So wherever you are, whatever time, I will see you soon. Let's give you one last look at our inspiration piece.